So, William, I guess you can start whenever it's comfortable for you.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Want to greet everyone. And of course, as always, we'll start with the Surah Al-Hamd, and then we'll go into our, what came to mind was a meditative state. And we will do our gratitude uh, exercise that we engage upon to set the frequency uh, right, get into the appropriate frequency for what we're being served up today, inshallah. So, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين صدق الله العظيم. We thank Allah, we thank Allah, we thank Allah for just being, and that's so encompassing, just to be. And in this day that we're in, that's saying a lot. That's saying a lot that we can just be. And in that spirit, we want to take a few moments, few meditative moments, and reflect and consider all the things that we have to be thankful for, just 10 of them. If you haven't written them down, it'd be a good time to do so. If not, make good, solid mental notes of the things that you have to be grateful for. Like Dr. Joe Dispenza has a process in his guided meditation, and he does something I think is pretty appropriate for us to consider. He takes whoever is involved in the meditative process, he takes them to a point of quiet, and he asks them to consider themselves as no thing or nothing, nobody, nowhere, you know, no time, and he take you into this time space continuum, but it's a place of before you wore that name, before you heard that first sound, before you were able to envision things, to that place of of frequency, but pure frequency, place of pure love, a place of pure inner knowing, a place of uh, infinite potential and possibility. And that's a good place to be, to allow ourselves to go there. And when we allow ourselves to go there, it opens up the possibility for us to just sense or feel the frequency. And in that state of quiet, we're able to actually activate our pineal organ. And when that happens, a type of explosion occurs And it gets us into a zone that our international instructor, Benjamin Bilal, might very well explore today in this discussion of the fig. You know, and the fig has what seems to be an infinite amount. It's not, but it seems to be so many of them, seeds inside of it. And that's a very fundamental activity of our brain, wherein we have this quality called consciousness. And in that consciousness is this one quality that we call imagination. And that's where everything becomes available to us, again, of potential and possibility. This time that we're in right now, in this shift that we're experiencing in the whole universal scheme of things, it's a time for us as true humans to step into this role as creators, not source creator, but nevertheless as creators, for us to focus on the infinite possibility of us creating the life for ourselves that the source creator has given us the power to do, to imagine, to create, to use our prefrontal cortex and actually make selections, decisions from the infinite amount of possibilities that we imagine. What kind of life, what type of life we want to experience. And we allow ourselves to go there in our imagination and consider what it might feel like, what we might be doing, who might be involved, what we might be saying, what we might be experiencing. And we get those pictures in our mind, in our imagination, then that's a big part of the creative process. That's what time we're in. So as the whole world around us seem to be in total turmoil and chaos and confusion, we have the choice to really be in a state of peace, of security, of energy in all its possibilities of expression. We have that choice, and Allah has given us that power. But it all starts with imagination. I had an opportunity just a few days ago, in this past Strong 7, to entertain the imagination, if you will, of some young men, some boys, ages, most of them were between the ages of 13 and 16. Some were actually younger. But it was, what, 20 plus young minds that was in an environment. It was a 6-acre parcel, a farm and retreat. His brother named Anthony Muhammad, it was actually the owner of that property. And he called it the Black Haven or the Black Heaven Farm and Retreat. And he opened up his venue there for these young minds to come, these young male minds to come and receive some words of inspiration and motivation and a stirring of their consciousness. And one of the concepts that we dwelt upon was imagination. We let them know how important they were, and that the time that we were spending with them, we were serving them. The elders, we were there to serve them. And we helped to stir their imagination by telling them that by the time they're 3, 4 years old, that their brain is already making 1 million connections, synapses per second. By the time they're 3, 4 years old, their brain is making new connections, new neural connections, 1 million per second. Can you imagine that? And by the time they're 6, 7 years old, they have grown and expanded from the beginning of themselves. If they consider the beginning when their mom and their dad join forces, if you will, and that one single pair joined, and those essence from those two was joined and became you as one unit of life, one cell of life. And then that cell split and became two, but those two joined or rejoined and became one. Then those two split again, and those two became four, but those four rejoin, and that's that process of splitting and rejoining and splitting and rejoining and splitting and rejoining, to by the time they're 7 years old or so, then that one has become 100 trillion cells. 100, a million, imagine that you have responsibility over 100 trillion cells. I did a poem here recently that I posted on my Facebook page as a part of a 30-day, 30-poem, 30-day exercise my oldest son invited me to participate in, reflecting this idea. And it just shows us our potential and our power that Allah has given us. And I raised the question, I call the poem Be Lack. B-E, uppercase B, uppercase E. Then I had a space there. And lack, be lack. And I raised the question, how can you possibly be lack? And then I shared the information about the way the cells are multiply themselves. It's a process I share with these youngsters called multiplication by division. You know, how that process of increase happens, to let them know how important they must be in this order, in this creation, how important we are as humans, as true humans, as human beings, how important we are in the scheme of things, each and every one of us. And how could we possibly see ourselves? And that's part of the scheme of those people that are selfish and want to dominate and control others. The scheme, one of the main parts of that scheme is the people throughout our home, the planet, that are considered, to use those terms, which I do not like, of white and black, the non-white people throughout the planet. They're given an image of themselves, again, imagination, given an image of ourselves as being poor. When you think about the Africans, the black Africans, you think about poor, hungry, starving children. When you think about the African American experience and the rest of the diaspora, then you have again the sense of non-white peoples, melanated people being poor, being last, being at the bottom. So that feeling of lack, be lack, and we have manifested a lack in terms of our thinking, and we've accepted that description, and we call ourselves black people. But how can we possibly be lack? I just want to share that with you, because those are some things we need to think. This is the best time in our awareness of human history ever, right now, today. There's more opportunity, there's more information available that you can get from just a device like this. You have the whole world of information that's been accumulated to our knowledge and awareness. There may have been periods of time when human beings had risen to this point in the past, or maybe even a higher point of consciousness and awareness than now, but we're not aware of those. We don't know of those. But in our conscious awareness now, in this human history, this is the best time ever for us. So instead of us being drawn into the gravity of the chaos and confusion in the world, we should be so excited to get up every day because of the opportunities that we have to create, to use our imagination and live. And if we aren't constantly involved in this process of change, of creating, of imagining life extending itself, expressing itself more fully and more fully, day in and day out, then we're not we're not showing gratitude for the time that we're in right now to step into this role as creators, every last one of us. Because every one of us, remember, every one of us have responsibility, the ability to respond to the call of 100 trillion cells that we're responsible for. That's, I went back to some of the training as a FOI under the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, about that digit being followed by so many ciphers. Well, we have that's one being followed by 14 zeros, y'all, 14 ciphers. That's a lot of cells to be responsible for. So that what that means, that translates into the power that I have available in my own being. That if I would just step into it, the guidance for me to be able to create the kind of life and the life expression that I desire for myself. Allah tells us to save ourselves and our families from the fire. So that power that I have to create the life that I want for myself and my family is by me just taking charge of the responsibility that the source creator has given me. And the guidance for it comes when we quiet the noise and go through this process of taking the activity in our brain and slowing it down, all the way down from alpha to beta to theta, and allowing ourselves to get into that same mental state that we were in as a newborn baby. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, where we were able to, as a sponge, just soak up all of the information that's coming in. And there was so much coming in until we actually had to go through a process of pruning. The brain is very efficient. So it takes, and if the proper environment, if our parents were aware enough to create the optimum environment for us to develop in, hasn't created that kind of environment, have created a paradise in our home environments. We all have the ability to do when we are aware. If that's done, then we can live each day to its fullest. That's the opportunity that we have right now. So there's no reason for us to worry about whether the people in Israel, the people in the United States, or any place else will nuke the planet or nuke portions of the planet. We don't need to have that concern. Our thinking should be above that, and we should be getting up each day excited about life, because I have the opportunity, you have the opportunity today to create the life that you desire for yourself and your family. So we should be excited about life. We should be happy about life. We should be so enthused like never before, no matter what your age is right now. You should be so enthused about life till you can't wait to get up in the morning to create. So I'm looking forward to this conversation on the Fig and the purpose. That's a powerful, powerful surah. And if you haven't taken time to read that surah, even if you can't read it in the Arabic, which is where the deep meaning is, but just in the English words, just read it, reflect upon it. After International Instructor will make the recording available to us, the replay available to us. Take the time to go back through it, read it, and reflect on it very carefully, and really gain appreciation and understanding for your ability to think, the power that you have in your brain, in your heart, and get excited about life, you know. And if you really want to get excited, study the brain, yes, but study the heart and understand that the heart was the first organ that's organized as that first unit of life, organizes itself. The first organ it organizes itself into is the heart, and the heart actually gives information to the brain. So, we have so much that Allah has given us inside of ourselves. We should be constantly learning, constantly expanding, constantly, and the more we learn, the more we expand and Nunetics is the perfect tool for that. The more we utilize this Nunetic experience, the richer the quality of our life should be. Our wealth should be just more obvious to us as we dig further and further and further into our genetic code, if you will. It's inside of us. So I just wanted to stir the pot a little bit, get us thinking, get us going internal, and getting us to tap in and to tune in to where we are right now in our Nunetics class environment. Those of you who have not stepped into the possibility, uh, International Instructor has made available to all of us, the those of us who want to make that extra step to be a part of the psychology class. Uh, had the second installment this past Tuesday. And if you haven't availed yourself to that, you want to position yourself so that you can as soon as possible. And also, of course, the modules that we have made available. You know, if you have not taken the time to listen to those, study those, to play those, and repeat it over and over and over again. See, that's the process. That's how you create. Another word that we use sometimes to program. You can no matter what your age, you can reprogram yourself at any age, but it's a process. And one part of that process is repetition. So if you're not taking advantage of these modules and you're listening to it repeatedly, now, every time I use a module and I listen to it, I get something that I didn't get before. I didn't hear before. Connections that I didn't make before. That's how the mind works. So extend yourself to the psychology class, use the modules, use the tools that we have. And there's no reason why our life experience should be getting better and better and better as we all jump into this creative process. So those are my thoughts with you for today. A prayer that Allah has opened up in our hearts and in our minds the room that's needed for us to expand our level of consciousness so that we can meet the demands of this environment that we're in today. Adam, did you have anything that you need to share with the class on the technical side of using our website?
Website. Just the fact that as we progress, we're gonna be moving to a new system where we can get our weekly replays and summaries from the website. So I highly suggest people sign up. It's not a sign up as in let me market something. No, it's literally going to be the new system that we're going into, so that when we have hundreds of people in the class, things are structured and organized and in a very nice professional way. So I would again for the third time call out people that are in our class to sign up. Make sure you go ahead and do that. Literally 10 seconds. Go to the website, put in your name, put in your email, get plugged in, and then you're all set. You don't have to do it again.
Yeah, great.
Other than that, back to you.
Okay, great. See, and this is the part of the fitra. We're more and more as a class, we're aligning ourselves with the fitra. You know, there's a ordering of putting things in terms of priority, putting things in place, putting things where they belong, a structuring that happens in the plant. You know, it's all inside of the seed, but when the seed unfolds, it unfolds in a structured manner and patterns. There are patterns built in to the very seed itself. So it's the same thing in our thoughts, you know. In each one of those thoughts, there's a pattern built into it, according to the fitra. So what we're doing with the class, and that's what Adam is sharing with you now, that's part of the process of the fitra, as we more and more order ourselves, organize ourselves so that we become more efficient. So with that,
Yeah, yeah, it's asking about the website to go to.
okay, Adam,
Yep, it's our regular New
Oh,
Nations
okay.
website,
Yeah, I saw you put it up.
newnationsinstitute.org.
yes,
All right.
great.
Okay.
Well, with that, I'll take this talking stick and gladly pass it on.
Peace and blessings. Peace and blessings. Thank you, Brother William.
Yes, indeed.
Blessings to each and every one of you in the sound of my voice. As you know, I'm Karima Medina Bilal, and I'm here to speak with you about matters pertaining to your health, your mental health, your spiritual health, your physical health. That's what this particular presentation will focus on. And if Instructor Bilal will share my screen, I will be letting you hear, well, actually, you'll be able to see the information that I hope to present to you this week. The information for this week is called Partners in Crime. Partners in Crime, Hypertension and Insulin Resistance. Hypertension and insulin resistance. I got a email from one of the members in the class, and that person wanted me to speak to hypertension and kidney disease and high blood pressure. And I thought it appropriate to expand on that. And that's what we'll do, Instructor Bilal. Now, as he's pulling up the notes, what I want you to do is what we always do whenever I speak, and that is remember the basics. And what are the basics? The human organism, as well as all organisms in creation, from the smallest to the largest, was created to exist in a particular environment, a specific environment. Examples of this are fish are exquisitely designed to exist in water, but not just any water, because some fish need salt water. Some fish need clean water or unsalted water. Some fish or some organisms thrive in swamp water. Likewise, the human being is created to thrive in a specific environment. And as Brother William said, we are the presidents of our nation, our cellular nation. All of those cells that we rule over have a purpose and have an environment in which they thrive. The corollary of being created in a specific environment is when you give that environment, when you give that creature its specific environment, then it will thrive. And the converse of that is if you deprive that organism of its specific environment. So when you hear that you have a sickness, when you are diagnosed with a sickness, what you should first think is, what have I created? As the ruler of my body nation, what environment have I created? And more importantly, what environment am I creating now? Remember, the past is intended to be our instructions. The present is where we have power and agency. So if you operate in the present, you have the ability to change the future. You cannot change your past. You can only learn from it. And in a physical, medical environment, I shouldn't say, I don't even like the word medical anymore. In a health environment, a health and healing environment, you must be conscious of, are you giving the organism that you are, and all the organisms, there we go, and all the organisms in your body, what they need to thrive? And if you are not, then you're going to experience sickness and eventual death. So let's talk about this right now. First thing, what is hypertension? We now enter into the realm of medicalese. What is medicalese? Medicalese is where people are speaking English, but the words are new to you. And if you understand how they're broken down, then it will be clear to you and you can decipher it and you can speak it. But anytime you see the word hyper, you should think excessive, too much, or high. And a good way to remember that is when you hear hypertension, hyperglycemia, hyper anything, the first thing is high. It means it's higher than it should be. So your medical term for high blood pressure is hypertension. Now, what I like to focus on is not just the condition, but how did it get that way? Furthermore, I'm less interested in treatment and management than I am in reversal and prevention. Now, sometimes you have to do both, especially when things are advanced. You can't prevent something if the patient's, only thing you can do is prevent the worsening of it. And sometimes you can't do that. But long-term, in a chronic condition, whenever possible, I do not want to manage poor health. I want to reverse it. I want to improve it. Well, what is blood pressure? Blood pressure speaks to the pressure in your arteries as blood is pushed from the heart to the extremities. Now, what are arteries? In our bodies, we have two types of blood vessels. You could think of them as highways. Highways leading from the heart to the rest of the body, and highways leading from the rest of the body back to the heart. The ones that lead fresh blood, fresh oxygen, fresh nutrients from the heart to the extremities are called arteries. The vessels that lead blood away from your extremities back to your heart are called veins. Now, there's a separate system called your lymphatic system, and the vessels for that are called simply that, lymphatic vessels. For the purpose of this discussion, we're going to stick to arteries and veins. Now, arteries are different than veins in that arteries are elastic. If you put your hand at the angle of your jaw and follow down to your neck and press gently, you should feel a pulse, something going. Those are your carotid arteries. These are major vessels coming up from your heart, bringing blood to your vein. Up to your brain, to your brain, right? So arteries are different than veins because they have a pulse. And they have a pulse because they're expanding and contracting as they receive blood from the heart. When the heart pushes blood away from itself, then the arteries expand. And it's a fraction of a second. It expands. And then it goes back to regular size, expand and contract. So you should think of arteries as being elastic. Now, when you hear that you have, following up on that thought, veins do not have that same elasticity. Veins have valves. So in order for the blood to get from your feet back up to your heart, it is the action of muscles that squeeze them and pump the blood back up to the heart. Right? And that's where activity comes in, especially using your legs. And they actually call your calves your second brain. My goodness. Yeah, your second brain, but your second heart. Your gut is your second brain. Your calves are your second heart. Yeah. So just keep that in mind. And that's why it's important to be active, because one thing that activity does is increase circulation. Well, what is circulation? As it would imply, the circular motion of blood from one place back to the heart, from the heart to the extremities, back to the heart, back to the extremities. So the muscles increase circulation. Got it? Very important that you got that. What are the key words so far? Blood pressure, arteries, veins. So when a person is told that they have high blood pressure or hypertension, what exactly do those numbers mean? They're given some numbers. So here's some more medical terminology. Here are some more big medical words that you can throw around and sound intelligent and actually be intelligent. Systolic and diastolic. You could think of them simply as the top number, systolic, and the bottom number, diastolic. And frequently what you will hear or what you will see is such and such a number over a different number. The top number, systolic. The bottom number, diastolic. Got it? Systolic, diastolic. Well, what does that actually mean? Systolic is the pressure in the arteries when the heart squeezes the blood into circulation. It squeezes it out into circulation. So think of it, you can squeeze gently or you can squeeze hard, right? And the difference between those is pressure. So the systolic pressure, in order to get it out and get it into circulation, is a firm pressure. And then it takes a moment and it fills up and then it squeezes out again. So you can think of systolic as the squeeze function and think of diastolic as the fill function. Now, I'm simplifying cardiology, but that's enough for you to know right here. Okay? Systolic, squeeze, top number. Diastolic, fill, bottom number. Both numbers are important. So what are the best numbers? Well, this is age-related. Age-related. Generally speaking, a person who's in excellent health, and that doesn't necessarily mean younger. There are many people, especially these days, who are young and in poor health. And unfortunately, those numbers are increasing day by day, year by year. We're now seeing cardiovascular disease, that is to say, diseases of the heart and the blood vessels, in populations that we didn't used to see until they were 40, 50, 60, 70 years old. We're now seeing it in teens and 20s. And why is that? Because of the lifestyle has dramatically changed. The food we eat has dramatically changed. The activity that we do, or I should say don't do, has dramatically changed. So generally speaking, the numbers are age-related, and they should be somewhere between 100 and 130 for the top number, or the systolic number, and 60 to 90 over the bottom number, or the diastolic number, the fill number. And generally speaking, it should be somewhere no more than 135 over 85. Now, again, that's up for some debate, because there are some situations, especially in people who are older, where a number that's in the 140s over 80s is appropriate and is the best for them. But for the purposes of this discussion, which is a general educational discussion, I am in no way diagnosing anyone. I am in no way proposing treatment for anybody. That is what you do with your provider. This presentation is exclusively for educational and entertainment purposes. Instructor Bilal, could you scroll up a little, please?
Entertainment.
Okay, right there, right there. So the question you might ask is, what causes, we've now explained, gently explained, hypertension or high blood pressure. And I like to deal with cause. I maintain, as many of my colleagues do, that high blood pressure is an effect. It is a result. You will always hear me refer back to when I speak about conditions, and high blood pressure is a condition. Diabetes is a condition. What is a condition? You create circumstances and you get a certain result. That's exactly it. It depends on something happening in order to get a certain result, right? Insulin resistance is strongly implicated, if not the complete cause of hypertension. Absent trauma, let's take out trauma, let's take out birth defects. But insulin resistance is strongly considered the cause, the root cause of high blood pressure or hypertension. Now, you've heard me speak of this before, but it bears repeating. What is insulin resistance? It is a condition in which the cells of the body stop responding to the action of the insulin. And what does the insulin do? It takes sugar from the blood and escorts it into the cells where it will be used for energy. Now, you know, if you've listened to me at all, that disease is not random. Disease, and Hippocrates said this 8,000 years ago. Disease and sickness is not random. It is the result of thousands of little sins against nature. So much so that the end result of that is disease. Now, we are so preoccupied in this world with things that are divorced from nature that we don't pay attention to the little sins. People generally will ignore cries from its body, from the body, until they become too loud to ignore. And that's when they come to the doctor and expect a magic pill that's going to make everything all right. And unfortunately, boys and girls, it didn't work that way. Remember, healthcare is an industry and medicine is a business. So the true beneficiary of your health is you. No one should profit more from your health than you. Unfortunately, as things are designed, people profit from your sickness, not your health. Therefore, you have to pay attention. You are the Khalifa, I like to say, the Khalifa. You are the administrator over your cell nation. Think about that. You should feel very important. Should be no self-esteem. Self-esteem, CELL-F. Esteem issues when you consider yourself as the president over a huge nation. Can you imagine? Right now in the United States, we have a president who presides over, 230 million people, right? The whole earth, 1.2 billion, 2 point something billion people. But you've got multiples of that We have a child has multiples of millions and billions of cells, and we preside over that. They belong to Allah, though. They belong to the Creator. So just as a president has a constitution or some rules that are established to protect excesses, to hold the president accountable for deeds or misdeeds, excesses or omissions, to keep the government over those cells honest. Allah has ultimate control over what our cells do or don't do. And for that, we need to be very, very grateful, because some of us are so trifling. Oh my God, some of us are so trifling, and we're also ignorant. So here is where we have to pay attention. What causes insulin resistance, and what is it in effect? Well, why is insulin resistance harmful? Remember, everything that we eat, everything that we take into our bodies has a chemical composition, right? Oh, how I wish I had been taught chemistry in this way when I went to school. Everything that comes into our body has a chemical composition. Air has a chemical composition, right? Air, we call it oxygen, but what we're breathing is not just pure oxygen. We're breathing nitrogen plus oxygen plus X number of other things, right? So chemicals in the body have actions. Some of those actions are beneficial and necessary, and others of them are harmful. But all of them have an action. Insulin has an action, and sugar has an action. Both of these are chemicals. They are biochemicals. They're body chemicals. But they both have an action, a necessary action in the body. And just as I described, at certain levels, high levels, they are harmful when left in the blood. This is where we thank the Creator for being the administrator in the background, right? They damage blood vessels and nerves over time. Insulin and sugar, as vital as they are to our survival, high levels of them damage blood vessels and nerves over time, and they cause a stiffening, a lack of elasticity in the walls of our blood vessels, specifically our arteries. And they damage the delicate lining of the blood vessels in general. They damage veins, they damage arteries, because both of those vessels need to be smooth as glass. Our Creator made them that way. They have to be smooth as glass, because if they are not, they will trigger the sentinels called platelets. What are platelets? Platelets are sentinels that travel through the blood, venous and arterial blood, and their job is to plug leaks, to plug patches. And what triggers them? Any kind of roughness. And that's beneficial, because without them, we would bleed to death. Isn't it wonderful to think that we have a Creator that built into us a system that is continuously, day and night, monitoring our blood vessels and our bodies, so that in the event there's a break, a rupture in the system, a leak in the system, it will send the platelets there quick, fast, and in a hurry. And in 21 seconds, in 21 seconds, we will form a clot under normal circumstances. A little different with arteries, but in general, we will form a blood clot in 21 seconds or less. This is why if you cut your finger, you press the area that's bleeding. Don't worry about getting napkins and clean things to do it. Wherever you are, press it. First thing, stop the bleeding. You just press it, just hold it, right? Hold it and press it there and account for at least 21 seconds. If you get a nosebleed, pinch together, right? Pinch together, direct pressure, pinch it together and hold it for 21 seconds. And then for God's sake, keep your finger out of your nose and don't pick the scab. That's what everybody wants to do. It stopped bleeding and then they take a tissue and they rub it around there to see if it's still bleeding and you disturb the clot. I digress. So what were we established? That both insulin and sugar are harmful at high levels when left in the blood. This is why, for this reason, it is best to avoid high carbohydrate, high sugar, that's sugars and starches, right? Anything that tastes sweet, avoid large amounts of them, avoid high levels of them, so that you don't trigger high levels of insulin release. Fail-safe mechanism. High sugar triggers high insulin. Low sugar, low insulin. Stable blood sugar levels. Got it? Very important that you understand this background. You want a big medical word to impress your friends? This physiology. It's a beautiful thing when you know it. You can teach this to children in grade school. I don't understand why they insist upon teaching this when you get into college or medical school. Imagine how many lives could be saved if people understood this early on. So can hypertension or high blood pressure be reversed? Yes. You won't hear that from the establishment. They will tell you it can be managed. They will tell you it can be treated. They'll put you in jail if you say it can be cured. However, yes, Hippocrates said this 8,000 years ago. When you stop doing the things that caused it in the first place, you can reverse it. I mean, think about this. If a faucet is running, if you have a tub or a vessel that's overflowing, common sense will tell you, turn it off. That's the cause. The overflow is the effect. But that's not the way, unfortunately, that is not the way that medicine works these days. They will tell you, just mop it up. Just keep mopping it up. You're not intelligent enough. We don't have time to explain to you. Costs too much to take the time to explain to you how you're actually killing yourself. Instead, take this tablet and you'll be all right. Oh, it doesn't work. Let me increase it. Oh, that's causing a side effect. Let me give you a different one. That's not all providers. That's the system. Got it? Okay. Hippocrates said 8,000 years ago that no man can be cured of a disease until he is willing to stop doing the things that caused it in the first place. Now, this is where we as patients, we as caliphs over our own body, we as the rulers over our cell nation have to take responsibility. If you are smoking, then you are the one causing the lung damage. If you continue to eat stuff which spikes your blood sugar levels and you're developing diabetes, and the doctor tells you you're developing diabetes, well, what can he do? He can't be with you every time you put a fork to your mouth. He's not the one that cooks your food. You are. And so you have to take responsibility. When you know, I believe when you know better, you'll do better. And hypertension, high blood pressure, like most other chronic diseases that assault our society now, is the result of poor diet, highly processed foods, junk food, lack of activity, and chronic stress. All of these cause insulin resistance. I'm not just the only one saying that. There's a growing thank Allah, there's a growing number of healthcare providers that are focusing on what they call root cause medicine or functional medicine. It should be elementary, but you are the one who suffers if your health declines. So you, we, us, must be the ones who take responsibility to make our health better. Instructor Bilal, can you raise it a little bit? So what is chronic kidney disease? Raise it some more. The chronic kidney disease is the result of uncontrolled diabetes and hypertension. If high blood pressure, remember, the body will tolerate a whole bunch of abuse. Praise be to Allah. The body will tolerate high levels of abuse for a period of time. And we have heard, I'm not sure the source, but I've heard that the body has rights over us. Our bodies do not belong to us. We are the stewards of our body. We are the administrators, the presidents of our bodies. Our bodies belong to Allah. How do we know that? Because He gave it to us. How do we know that? Because when it is appropriate, according to Allah's will and plan, He'll take it back. We have a lease. We have actually, I like to say we have a licensing agreement. Unfortunately, the terms of that agreement are frequently not made clear to us or deliberately told to us in error. However, the point I want to make is, even if you wild out on Thanksgiving, you completely crash out on New Year's Eve, your body will forgive you because that's a one-time event. But if you do this every day, by the way you eat, every day is McDonald's breakfast, every day is street food, every day is high levels of caffeine, sugar, and highly processed food over a period of time. And some people, depending on your reserves, it may be years if you're lucky. For other people, not so much reserves, and it happens quickly. And when it does, and you blow out your kidneys, now you've got kidney disease. So let's take a minute and speak about what do kidneys do. Kidneys is the body's waste processing system. Waste does a lot of things. Kidneys do a lot of stuff. But for the purposes of this presentation, we're going to focus on how kidneys filter the blood and remove wastes. Filter the blood and remove wastes. Just like in our present society, we don't focus on what happens to the packaging of the things that we take, right? We don't think about what happens to the cardboard box when we get a package from Amazon. We don't think about what happens to the rind of the watermelon when we eat it. We throw it in the garbage, we put it out for garbage collection, and it's gone. In the body, we don't think about what happens to the food we eat. We eat it, we're full, we go to sleep, we wake up, we go to the bathroom, and start all over again. But the kidneys are key to waste management. If we do not have functioning kidneys to remove waste from the blood, then we will sicken and die. The clean water, our blood, clean blood will become a swamp and we will sicken and die. I don't know how many of you had goldfish as a child. I remember having fish and having a fish bowl, didn't have a pump, just had a fish bowl, fish tank. And I got great joy out of sprinkling the food on the top of the water and seeing the fish eat. But in my ignorance, I did not understand that the fish poops in his water. So he functionally lives in his own waste. And if you do not change the tank, then eventually those wastes will overcome the fish. And I remember coming out and seeing goldfish floating on the top of the water belly up. Your cells are that fish. Your cells are that goldfish. And the environment that we create in our blood is maintained, exquisitely maintained by the kidneys. This is, I mean, really, it's not to go too deep into the weeds here, but you cannot not believe in Allah or a creator, whatever you choose to call that creator, once you study how the body works. As we are sitting here listening to this presentation, as I'm making this presentation to you, our kidneys are busily at work, filtering our blood, maintaining pH balance. Go back to the fish analogy for a second. Wastes are acidic. The whole pH balance is, in a very simple term, a way of measuring how acid a substance is, low pH, or how alkaline a substance is, high pH. Okay, let that rest right there. Our cells, the fluids in our body surrounding our cells, our blood, has to have a very narrow window of pH, 7.34, and I believe the highest is 7.43, maybe less than that. But it's very narrow, very narrow. And if it goes below that and acids begin to build up in the blood and the pH starts to shift towards the acid side, we will die. This is what happens when people who are diabetic, poorly controlled, or undiagnosed go into something called ketoacidosis. The byproducts of metabolism, burn fat, are called ketones. And when they build up in the blood past a certain point, because the kidneys are not functioning right, because insulin is not functioning right. This is not ketones trying to lose weight, different scenario. This particular situation called ketoacidosis is lethal if not corrected. And all of that, balancing of the pH, getting rid of those wastes, maintaining that pH balance, maintaining the right amount of water in the blood, the right amount of electrolytes in the blood. All of that takes place in the kidneys, which is being maintained as we speak without our conscious control. We don't have the bandwidth to deal with that. But the mercy of the Creator is such that it's done without our conscious control 24/7 from birth, you could say even from intrauterine life, all the way until death. Amazing. The best we can do is something called dialysis. When do you need dialysis? Well, now we get into what happens when the kidneys start to fail because of years of uncontrolled diabetes, years of uncontrolled blood pressure. Here we go. It's called chronic kidney disease. You'll hear it referred to as CKD. And it's categorized into 5 stages, and it's based upon something called the estimated glomerular filtration rate, or EGFR, EGFR. That's all you got to remember. And what this does, in simplest terms, is measure how well the kidneys filter waste. Got it? EGFR, kidney filtration rate. What does it reflect? How well the kidneys filter waste. Can you raise up, Ben, roll it up? Now, it has 5 stages, and it ranges from, scroll up more. It ranges from mild to 5. In other words, mild to advanced. And they call it stage 1, stage 2, all the way through 5. Now, how do we test this? We test this through the blood and through the urine, which is why it's important. At the minimum, if you think you're healthy, at minimum, you should prove it by getting your blood drawn at least once a year. And as you get over, I would say over 55, you should do it every 6 months. And if something abnormal is noted, you should do it according to what your provider says. And that can be as often as every month or every 3 months, depending on your condition. Now, the way that we do this is a test called a chemistry panel. We call it a CMP, a comprehensive metabolic panel. What does it measure? It measures how well your kidneys are working. It measures how well your liver is working. It measures your glucose. It measures, for your purposes, let's leave it right there. For the purposes of this discussion, let's leave it there. And one of those ways that it measures kidney and liver function is something called an eGFR. So if it's working well, and this normally you can have a lower eGFR based upon age, because the older you are, it's kind of expected that things are not going to work as well in your 70s, 80s, 90s as they did when you were younger. However, all that's predicated on how well you take care of your health. So let's look at this here. According to the National Kidney Foundation and 5 other sources, stage 1 of normal or high function is when the rate of filtration, the rate at which your kidneys take ick out of your body, out of your blood, is when this value, which you'll find on your chemistry panel, is more than 90. Right? Symptoms, generally none. Stage 2, mildly decreased function, when your filtration rate is between 60 and 89. What does it mean? A mild reduction in function. Symptoms, you don't rarely, but you might have something called fatigue or high blood pressure. Sidebar, you should have a blood pressure monitor in your home. Everybody. It should be part of your first aid kit. It should be part of your, as I call it, your home hospital and your kitchen clinic. You can get it cheap as salt. You can get it used. You can get it from any of the chain stores, Walgreens, CVS, Walmart, any of them. You can get it online. Amazon's got a zillion of them, but you certainly should have a blood pressure monitoring machine. When you see that, you can look and see, how's my blood pressure? And keeping in mind that your blood pressure fluctuates with your emotions. I could show you, if I had you in front of me, or maybe in a guided class, that you can make your blood pressure go down by relaxing. How does that happen? Well, when you're upset or when you're stressed, you throw out adrenaline. Adrenaline makes your blood vessels constrict. When your blood vessels constrict, your blood pressure goes up. When you relax, your blood vessels expand and your blood pressure goes down. Simple as that. You can see that, you can monitor that yourself with the blood pressure machine. How about that? Now, if you pay somebody to do that, that's called biofeedback. It's all based upon your breathing, something that you do yourself. You control your breathing to a certain extent, right? You breathe deeply, you stimulate your vagus nerve, and it goes down. You relax. You breathe shallowly, like you do when you're upset. You hold your breath like when your pulse goes up, your blood vessels constrict, your blood vessels go up. See how much is in your control. See what you can do, President. See what you can do, Khalifa. I continue. Stage 3A, 3B, moderately decreased. That's when your blood chemistry will show and an EGFR of 30 to 59. At this point, this is moderate damage, right? You may have symptoms, most people do. The one that seems to be consistent with all this is fatigue. You may get swelling in your legs, your hands, and you may have back pain. FYI, your kidneys are in your back. Stage 4, significantly decreased function. Your filtration rate is between 15 and 29. This is not good. When you start getting changes in your filtration rate, you are in the zone where you need to have a doctor that you trust. I'm a big one for managing your health yourself. When you start getting into this realm, you need to have the specialists. Yeah, you do have to have those kinds of specialized interventions. You can inform yourself. There are things that you can do, but you need to have a practitioner that you trust, that knows their stuff. When you get stage 4, that's when damage is severe and you're preparing for potential kidney failure, fatigue, nausea, vomiting, metallic taste, anemia, and bone disease. Why? Because kidneys also filter and maintain calcium and phosphorus levels. So you're getting into the twilight zone here. And stage 5, instructor, can you raise it up? Scroll up. Keep going. And stop there. Stage 5, kidney disease, is kidney failure. They're functioning, but they're functioning at low levels or they have failed. By this point, you know it. You feel really bad, swelling throughout your body, confusion, loss of appetite. And this is where we're into dialysis or transplant territory. You want to stop it well before it gets there. Look at your lab tests. Do not be satisfied with somebody telling you everything is okay. Some of that is based upon the thinking that you don't know and you wouldn't understand it if I told it to you. I consider that a certain bias and I don't like it. The other part of it is real. They don't have time. Why don't they have time? Because they have to have a lot of patients in order to maintain cash flow. Let's face it, running a practice takes money. You need staff. You got to pay those people. So what can you do? What can you do? My particular philosophy, if you don't start it, you won't have to finish it. This is where you have to embrace your agency as creator. This is this can be prevented. This is something that you, me, us as a society, we did this. We do this to ourselves. Now, by the time you get to the point that you've got kidney disease, what you can do about it really does become damage control. To best I understand, my research shows you cannot reverse kidney disease. You can prevent the progression. Research that I've done thus far says you cannot, once the kidneys are damaged, they're damaged. But you can prevent further progression of the disease. You want to prevent all of that. It's not necessary. It doesn't have to happen. Ignorance is not bliss. Ignorance is sickness and slavery. Man, that makes me angry. Ignorance is sickness and slavery and somebody else profiting at your expense. When you understand, and understanding, let me just tell you this. How does a practitioner learn what they learn? They read. Then they get out and they practice. Everything that I know, I learned from somebody. I learned it from books. I learned it from experiences. I went to and had medical training at Stanford for 2 years. But the majority of stuff that I know, I would say 95% of the stuff that I know, I learned on my own. I learned the stuff to pass the test to get the credentials. But understanding and interest, genuine interest in seeing how things work and wanting to make a change, that's what led me to do research. That's what leads me to do it now. I want to protect my kidneys. I want to protect my husband, my children, my grandchildren's kidneys. I, if you allow it, would like to help you protect your own kidneys. But I can't teach you jack. You have to learn it. Nobody can teach you anything. You learn it. I can present before you a buffet. You have to eat it. So what can you do? Now this, Instructor Bilal, can you scroll up? Once you have it, once you have advanced kidney disease, you will be under the doctor's care. You should be monitored carefully, and you should be working with a nutritionist. And you'll probably be referred to a nephrologist. What's a nephrologist? Kidney specialist. Now, what can you do? You can prevent further damage. How do you do that? You have to have what's called a kidney-friendly diet. Now, what I'm going to do is stop here. And the notes, he'll forward, the Instructor Bilal will forward them to you. Because this in itself, what can you do, is rather involved, and I don't want to skim over it. So I'm giving you the information. And the first thing anyone who has this should do is speak with your provider. This will give you the basics to ask. The ill effects of drinking any higher pH levels of water actually are not much. Much worse effects if you drink acidic water, right? When you drink water of any kind, what's going to happen is your body, in Allah's wisdom, is going to neutralize it and make it the best pH. If you, in fact, drink acidic water, water which is low pH, pH below 7, that's going to tax your system because your body's going to have to secrete sodium bicarbonate and other kinds of alkalizing minerals to neutralize the acidity. So if you're going to test your water at all, you can't go wrong if you have pH 7, 7.5 water, maximum 8 water. Nothing bad's going to happen. When you start getting above that, or below that, you start getting into the weeds. And unless you're really studying and knowing what you're doing, A, you might be wasting money, and B, you might be harming yourself. So I like to speak to the general common denominator, since there are people who, not understanding, but in the zeal of the recent student, will jump in and start doing a whole bunch of stuff and cause harm to themselves. So my advice, stick with pH neutral water, pH between 7.5, 7, 7.5, 8. Stay there. Nothing bad will happen. Purify the water, though. Purify it. It's the chlorine, the fluorine, the other stuff that they put in it that causes it to be acidic. If it's contaminated water, it's the wastes of the giardia, the schistosomes, all the other ick that can get into the water, the chemicals that can get into the water. They are generally acidic. And that will cause your water to become pH acidic, meaning less than 7. What to do to reduce stress levels to lower hypertension? Well, Instructor William started giving you some of that in the beginning, but that's where Instructor Bilal's psychology course comes in. That's where I could give you, I think I gave you once before, something on stress management, but fundamentally, it means controlling your thoughts. Your mind and your body are connected. What you think has a split-second effect on your body. Why? Because your body in the infinite wisdom of the Creator, is wired for survival. So at the moment you see, hear, or feel, and I would say think, something that threatens your survival, even if it's you didn't get a report in to your doctor on time, or you hear your grandchild fall, that horrible moment, whew, that horrible moment when you hear your child or your grandchild or somebody that you care about, they fall. You should hear what is reassuring. You hear sound that lets you know that, oh, shucks, I fell and I hit my head, or the child starts to cry instantly. They're okay. But when they fall, you hear the sound and there's no sound. You hear somebody go down the stairs, they fall down the stairs, you hear the child hit their head, you hear them hit the ground, and there's no sound. That will send your adrenaline levels through the roof, your commensurate rise in blood pressure, and that fight or flight thing as I'm going down the stairs with arthritis, three stairs at a time to get down there and see what's going on. Same thing happens when you see horror movies. That's why I specifically advise, do not watch blood and gore movies. Stay away from highly suspenseful movies, because even though Freddy Krueger's not in the room with you, these things are designed to stimulate your imagination. So for that moment, you are that person that's being stalked. You are that person that has to fight for their life. So I stay away from those. So go back, review previous presentations on stress management, and in that process, you'll learn how to control your blood pressure levels. And there's another thing called HeartMath. You can get it, it's a machine, it's a device. You can get it from Amazon. But I think the cheapest way you can do it is with something called a pulse oximeter. A pulse oximeter. You should have that there. A pulse oximeter is a little something that your provider should always put on your finger. And what it does is it measures the amount of oxygen that's flowing through your body, but it also manages your pulse. So when you are relaxed, your pulse goes down. And when you're excited, your pulse goes up. So all you got to do is get a call from a bill collector. Pulse up. But by extension, get some good news. Pulse up. But it's a good feeling. So these are lots of little things that we can do. It's within our control. I would leave you with this thought in particular. Get your labs done. If you and know what your labs are and what they say, what they mean. If you get them and you don't know what they mean, that's what ChatGPT is for, ladies and gentlemen. That's what Google is for. There was a time when you'd have had to look it up in a medical book, and if you didn't have a medical book, you're kind of out of luck. You might not have understood what was in there anyway, because medical books are written in medicalese. But now we've got ChatGPT. Even if you don't know how to read, you can get it said to you. You understand what I'm saying? If you're blind, you can get it read to you by your computer. So there's no reason to remain ignorant. And for those who want to claim Blackness as a reason that you cannot monitor your health or you can't take care of stuff, I say BS, bullocks. You're only as stupid as you consent to be. In this day and time, and I'm telling you, I was born in Jim Crow. I was born into segregation. You can't tell me jack right now in this day and time about ignorance. You, even in those times when it was hard, my grandmother, she died at 108. She taught herself to read with the Bible. So don't talk to me about racism now. Bullocks. I could say other things, but I won't. Instructor will get after me. So with that said, I'm going to pass the mic to Instructor Bilal, and if there are any specific questions, I'll be pleased to answer them. Instructor Bilal, are you there?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. If there are any questions, this will be the time to ask. And if not, then we'll kindly move on. Kareem, I'm going to ask you just to fill in for me for 2 or 3 minutes
Yes,
while
I
I
do
go get
want.
some water. Yes.
Sure, sure. I do want to also tell you that I thank Allah for Instructor Adam because he's helping me put together. He's helping me pull together a website, and when I have that website, you'll be able to see what services I offer and what cost, if any, there is to that. You'll be able to see a collection of the presentations that I've made, and you'll be able to communicate with me. As you know, right now, even before the website is up, it's truehumanhealing@gmail.com. TRUE human, HUMAN, healing, HEALING @gmail.com. So you can reach out to me at any point. I just beg you to remember, I am not your provider. I am retired. I am your coach if you wish me to be. I can be your teacher if you wish me to be. But I am not your provider. Therefore, I cannot diagnose you. I cannot treat you. What I can do is I can help you research your condition. I can help you understand the medicalese. I can help you decipher. I shouldn't say decipher. I can help you learn to distinguish the difference between what is wheat and what is chaff on the internet, because there's a lot of stuff on the internet that's totally bogus. It's just not worth dealing with. So you learn all of that. And I can help. I'm pleased to help you do that. The one thing that I will not tolerate, though, is willful laziness and ignorance. At 73 years old, which I am proudly, I don't got a lot of time for nonsense, for foolishness. If you want to be better, if you want to learn better, I'm very pleased to help you go there. However, I have a low tolerance for whining, boo-hoo whining and crying. I got no time for it. You want to get better, I'll help. You're looking for excuses to not do better, I'm not that one. There's a hand up, but I don't know how to answer that.
You have a few questions there. You have Arlene and then Muhammad Abdullah.
Go for it.
Sister Karima, oftentimes when I get GFR results, it seems to be some discrepancy between African American numbers and Caucasian numbers, and how surprised or anxious should I be about those numbers? On my last test, it was at 63, which was considered within the range of normalcy, but the AST or the SCOT, I have no idea what these acronyms stand for, it was 44 on a scale of 0 to 40. So what can you tell me about that?
Well, it is best to discuss private results privately.
Mm-hmm.
So I'll speak in generalities.
Okay.
There is a difference between African Americans and, well, I should say, I like being insulted if you want to, but I like to say colored folks and white folks.
Okay. Okay.
That's the generation I'm from.
No problem.
Yeah, as a colored folks and white folks. And what happens there is, let me give you an overview of lab results in general. Lab results take averages,
Okay.
and they do something called a bell curve,
Mm-hmm.
right? So on this side, you got the low, in the middle, you got the high, and over here, you got the others. So they take the average of all of that, and as long as you're in between the two highest points, that's considered normal.
Okay.
But generally, medicine is interpreted through the European paradigm.
Okay.
Even if you look at diets, right, or look at civilization, everything, history is viewed through the eyes of the European, right? Now, with that said, a small digression here, we are more alike in terms of blood type
Mhm.
than we are color. Color is an
Okay.
arbitrary designation.
Okay.
But if you need blood, you can get your type of blood from a white person, an Asian person. It doesn't matter as long as it's your type with your antigens. So getting back to your blood type, to your kidney results, there are differences between those, and whether or not, my comment on that would be, are they normal or not, based upon what your ethnicity is. So if your EFGR for African Americans is within normal range, I take that as normal range. And I would even go a step further. Lab results are regional. Florida has a larger population of people who are older than 65 or even older than 55 than, say, New York, which has a younger population. So you might very easily see lab results, if you were in New York, that would differ from your lab results if you lived in Florida. So just make a note of that. With that said, I look at optimal lab results. Let me explain what optimal means. Most lab results that they tell you are normal mean that you're not sick. Let that sink in. It means that you're within that range of whatever the number of people are. The average fell within this point and this point. The people who were low and were considered deficient are over here on this side of the bell curve. And the people who are high, meaning higher than that average number, are on this side. So right in here means that the average number of people, the greatest number of people that they tested in your region were between this point and this point. You follow?
Yes.
However, people that study health instead of sickness, remember it says you're not sick. People that study optimum health say that it should be a different value. Let me give you an example. Hemoglobin A1C.
Yes.
Right? Hemoglobin A1C. They tell you that okay, meaning you're not diabetic, is somewhere between somewhere less than 5.6, somewhere between 4.x and less than 5.6. If you're above 5.6 to 6.7, then you're pre-diabetic, or I like to say you're showing insulin resistance. And if you're above 6.7, then you're diabetic. So people that study optimum health say it's not enough to just be not sick.
Okay.
You should be, instead of 5.6, less than 5.6, 5.4 to 5.6, 5.2 or 5.0 is where people who are in peak health, that's the range that they operate in.
Okay.
So what's the take home in all of that? I've told you several different things there. If where you are says that you are not sick, meaning you're within normal range, your age, your ethnic group, didn't say your color, I said your ethnic group, then okay, start working towards optimum. How do you find that? Ask Google, what is the best range? What is the range for optimum health, right? If your range in your ethnic group where you are is not normal, then irrespective of
Yeah.
white or black, colored or not, work to get it back to normal,
Yeah.
whatever that is.
Mhm.
Did I answer your question?
Yes, yeah.
That's, you want at least you want to be not sick.
Yeah.
If we're not
Absolutely.
sick, we can work towards getting healthy, but we
Yes.
definitely want to be not sick.
Yes.
Next question.
Yeah, Kareem, I wanted to ask you about Assalamu alaikum, my sister.
Alaikum assalam.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about supplements, supplements, and also herbal supplements. When is it enough? How do you know if you're taking the right amount? Because there's so many different supplements, to take. So how do you know when to take them safely? Because particularly if you are taking other medications, I'm taking medications.
It's a
So
very
I
good
don't
question.
want. Yes, go
It's a
ahead.
very good question. And that's
Thank you.
where you have to speak with your provider. A, do your research. So have a list. This is what I instruct my clients, my students to do. Make a list of all the medications that you're on.
Mhm.
Make a list of all the supplements that you're on. And then take some time and do the research of what is that drug for? What does it do? What are the side effects? Same thing with the supplements. I learned the hard way that supplements can be harmful if you don't know what you're doing. Here's an example.
That's why I asked the question.
Yeah, anything that has a biological action in the body can be harmful if you do it in excessive amounts. So
Yes.
here's a case in point. I'm violently allergic to seafood. I got to do EpiPen, adrenaline, ER if I ingest seafood. So how do I get my iodine if I do not get seafood? So I got an iodine supplement. Now, this particular supplement, you're supposed to take 1 drop. 1 drop. But hardhead like the feeling of 2 drops. And
Okay.
because what it did was it woke me up. In the mornings, I had to go to work. I got to drive an hour and a half to get to some remote clinic that I was covering. And I did not want to get up. So I increased it to 2. And then over a period of time, the work got harder, the distance got harder. I increased it without monitoring, right? I increased it to where I was actually doing 4 drops, 4, when I should be taking 1.
Mhm.
And I developed hyperthyroidism, excessive thyroid, because that's one of the things that the thyroid gland needs in order to function is iodine. And since I didn't feel anything but good taking it, it made me, I woke up, I had in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, well, hey, if my thyroid's working well, maybe I'll lose a little weight on the DL. And so I took it. And then all of a sudden, right around Thanksgiving, I noticed I had swelling in my feet. I noticed that the journey and it became a journey from the bedroom to the bathroom would send my pulse rate up into the 120s. I noticed that when I went to the doctor, before that, my own blood pressure monitor was showing 150s and 80s. And I said, oh, ain't this pretty good? So I went to the doctor. The first thing I did was to look up can iodine cause this? Or what are the causes of excessive heart rate? In order to get the right answer, you have to phrase the question the right way. He says,
Right.
so what are the causes of swelling in the ankles? Because I never had that before. What was that? And right in there, it said hyperthyroidism. And bingo, right there, I said, oh, that's how I did it. And it ended up being iodine-induced hyperthyroidism. Now we go back to my basic tenets, cause and effect. So if I have excessive thyroid that's caused by too much iodine, Ray Charles could tell you the solution. Stop taking the iodine. Did I confirm it? Hello, Google. Hello, ChatGPT. How do you address iodine induced hyperthyroid? And it said, stop taking the thyroid. Everything I looked at, all my books said, stop taking the iodine. And then it should come down this way, this way, this way, this way. So to rule out the other causes, just to make sure I wasn't missing something, I went to a doctor. And the doctor, God bless her, wasn't a doctor, it was a mid-level. She didn't know I was a PA. I've been in practice older than she was alive. But I don't flex that. I assume that they know what they're doing. So when I got in there and she checked my blood pressure and she saw the swelling in my legs, first thing she said is, oh, you got to go to a cardiologist. You got a congestive heart failure.
Mm.
And at that point, my PA came and I said, by the way, what are the causes of congestive heart failure and high blood pressure? And she went through them. I said, how about hyperthyroidism? Oh, and she says, are you a PA? Are you a doctor or whatever? Well, presume that I'm not. Just talk to me and treat me like I'm just a patient. And I ended up schooling her. That's not a flex. That is, no, you're not, oh, well, you got hyperthyroidism. Now you got to go to a cardiologist and an endocrinologist. Well, wait a minute. If you're a general practitioner, you're supposed to know how to deal with all of that. Yeah. But the short sentence is, had I not done my research, even me, 50 years in the game, if I hadn't done my research, I would not know what questions to ask. I would not know if the answers that she gave me were right answers. Now, just to be on the safe side, I said, this is what I want you to do. That took a minute, but I said, this is what, and I didn't come out like, this is what I want you to do. There was no cobra neck in it. It was, I would like to, if it's all right with you, I would like to have a chest x-ray. And I brought you my lab results. You see what I'm saying? I want to respect her intelligence. I had the lab results before because that was the next thing that providers do. They start running down a list of tests. And now you're going to walk out of there not knowing whether or not what your situation actually is. But fortunately, in North Carolina, you can order your own labs. And if you're self-insured, that becomes very important because a visit to the endocrinologist, a new visit's $300. Visit to the cardiologist, new visit, $300-400, depending on where you go. I ain't got money like that. So I said, what I want is I'd like to rule out the other causes. So here's my lab results. We already know I have high thyroid. Okay, I'd like you to order a chest x-ray. How did I know that? Because I looked it up. How do you rule out congestive heart failure? The cheapest way is a chest x-ray. So to answer your question directly, you have to become your own detective and work right alongside. Now you, Muhammad Abdullah, because of your particular situation, critical that you speak with your providers, critical that you speak with your nutritionists, right? Because if you're going to have drug and supplement interactions, there's the potential for the strange thing. And one thing you want to avoid at all costs is the strange thing. Okay?
Okay. All right. Thanks so much.
That was a long way around, but I wanted to
it's clear.
a
Crystal
case
clear.
in point of how supplements and a little bit of knowledge, even a lot of knowledge, with just a little bit of ego and arrogance can get you into big trouble. Now
Surely.
I have
Thanks
to,
so much. Steve.
alhamdulillah, I have to make Instructor Bilal's dinner. So unless there's some really pressing questions, I'm going to pass the talking stick back to Instructor Bilal. And if there's anything else you want to ask me, you can email me, truehumanhealing@gmail.com. I'm out of here. Love you all. Bye.
Okay. All right. Well, that was exciting. That was informative, even more so than exciting. And I'm so happy to have her on our team. So I'm going to go right into my presentation for today, which is kind of a part two from last week where we were speaking on the subject of imagination. So give me one moment to just get properly set up here. And I will return in less than 1 minute. Take the time to get yourself some water or some tea, or something that will just keep you kind of mellow during the presentation. It's not going to be that long, but take the next 60 seconds or so to prepare. Thank you. I'll be right back. Greetings once again to one and all with the greetings of Salamun Alaikum. Once again, I'm very happy to be here with this particular class, which is growing in leaps and bounds. If you weren't paying attention to that, you'll notice that your answers and your questions are becoming more concise, more directed, and more impactful to those who are listening and benefiting from the advice that we're actually giving each other. But it's still very helpful to have professionals in the room when we're discussing topics like health and well-being, when we're discussing how the intellect works or functions, and what accounts for the excellence that Allah clocked into the human soul that all of us actually should be looking to exercise. There's an excellence that won't quit. It's not designed with a ceiling. You know, in the Prophet's time, it is said that he built a masjid that had no ceiling. And to me, that signifies that he built a masjid that had no limits. The intellectual capacity had no limit. There wasn't a limit on how much you could learn. There was simply a limit on the type of information you should seek to learn. And the type of information, as the Quran clearly tells us, is useful knowledge. Not just knowledge, useful knowledge. There are people who have knowledge of how to build atomic bombs, nuclear weapons. But the point is that going to be useful and helpful to humanity? In most cases, we have to say, no, it's not. But humanity is not at a stage yet where we have evolved into what I like to continuously call the true human stage. And the true human stage is when no one has to literally sit you down and explain to you what right and wrong is, because there's something operating within the core of the human nafs, the core of the human soul, for lack of a better term, that signals you when things begin to go off center. It signals you, it signals the infant when things aren't right, although the infant can't technically explain what is going wrong. He or she knows that something just ain't right with even a person who's in front of them. And they're doing it because they're able to recognize frequencies. Keep that in mind as I pull up my notes. think I have the right notes here. Stand by. Yes. Okay. Can everyone see my notes?
Yes.
Yes, sir.
Beautiful. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to go at a pretty much faster pace than normal. So pay attention. And just like if you're riding in a vehicle and it starts to speed up a little more than what you're used to experiencing, you need to hold on to a pole in the bus or the subway or the vehicle, the car that you're riding in. You need to hold on to the back of someone's seat or make sure that your seat belts are buckled. Well, I'm going to ask you to do the same thing for today's journey. Make sure that you are strapped in for this particular ride. So we're here on this Sunday, April 12th, 2026. I, of course, am your international instructor, Benjamin Bilal, and I'm thankful that Karima Medina Bilal was able to present such a concise information or set of information that we can actually benefit from. It's not so much above our heads that we can't research it and we can't implement it in our lives. It doesn't make sense to get all of the rest of this knowledge, this precious knowledge, if we're not going to live to experience it. if we're going to be too sick to enjoy the knowledge. Knowledge is supposed to be enjoyed. You know, when you learn things that are for your betterment, well, your betterment is going to make you feel better. And you don't want to be in a position where you have to sit and suffer unnecessarily. Now, we don't know what kind of loops and all of that life will throw us and all of that. We don't know. Allah is in control of all of that. But the things that we do have within our control, that are in our own hands, as they say, we need to take very much more control of that which Allah has put squarely in the center of our own control. That's all we're saying here. So we're going to pretty much continue from the notes that we left off on last week. And I'm going to be saying just a few more words about this misused word in the English language called prayer. It is a misused word, and it is also a totally misused concept for how the average person who calls themselves a religious person views the action of prayer. Prayer is not a momentary, limited action. It is not a prescription for an activity that takes place 5 times a day in our case. It is an activity that is ongoing for as long as your mind is alive. But we have never been taught that. Your life is actually responding to who you want to be, but it's responding first and foremost through your or in your imagination. You can say that you want abundance, but if the subconscious mind sees lack, if it feels lack and assumes lack, then lack is what will continue to show up even though you are consciously concentrating and seeing yourself as a rich or wealthy person. In the consciousness and the subconsciousness operate on 2 different paradigms, is the point here. And the stronger paradigm belongs to the subconscious mind. Manipulative people in charge of this culture provided an ethnic group with a name that would be designed to cripple the whole group in a way that would not allow progress to be made due to the terrible effect this name would have on their subconscious mind and their group soul identity. Remember, there is your soul as an individual human. But when you're born in a particular geography, a particular space and time, speaking a particular language, wearing food, wearing a clothing, pardon me, and eating the food that's pretty much the same as the next person, to the point where you, as a group, begin to like fried chicken, for instance, or basmati rice or something. Well, that's your cultural food, and it creates a cultural or a group soul. So your soul can be manipulated on the human level, where every human being is affected by the things that affect you, or they learn that your soul can be affected on the ethnic level, called the group soul level, where they put influences out into society that only affect you and your group. So the name that they gave us that would affect pretty much only one group, the name was Black people. Black people. During slavery, the church taught us to beg the sky for all of the material goodies that would be, pardon me, that they said were being denied to us in this life. We were told to beg the sky, that there's a God up in the clouds, in the heavens, in another realm, in another jurisdiction. And we were to beg him for those material wants and needs and pleasures that they said were being denied to us in this life on earth, but would be plentifully available in the next life that they called heaven. Our idea about prayers and blessings are inherited from that erroneous idea. Think about what's being said. We as a people, on the most part, I'm speaking to people who look like me when I look at myself in the mirror, we were called Black people. But the term Black people was actually a trick term in the English language and in the language of psychology. And let's discuss now what that trick actually entails. In the word Black, you can see very clearly is the word lack. So when you call someone Black, you're saying that they are lacking something. When you call a person by the racial term white, you're saying that they represent the height of something. This is how many words in the secretive English language that's taught to only the elite people, the people who are going to be in charge of running our lives. That's what I mean by elite people, elite organizations, elite societies. These are people who learn language quite differently than it's taught to those of us who have gone to public school, so to speak. And even those who have gone to private school but have not reached the echelon that the people I'm speaking about have reached. You do not have to beg the sky for your provisions. You merely need to rearrange your inner world so that your outer world will follow. You were never meant to be ruled through circumstance, meaning the things that just happen to you. You know, que sera, sera, whatever will be, the future's not ours to see. You know the song, que sera, sera. No, you were not meant to be ruled by the que sera, sera principle. You were created to be a ruler through consciousness. You are a human being, not a human doing stuff. And most of us, unfortunately, have not caught on to that lesson of life, that we are here to produce things from a particular position, and that position is consciousness. Most of us as people are going around acting and reacting on the subconscious level, And we're never really giving our conscious mind a chance to do what it has been created by the source creator to do. This is part of what it means to be a Khalifa fil Ard, as the Quran refers to it. And that simply means ruler in the earth. Khalifa, ruler, fi, in el Ard, the earth. You have to dare to believe something higher about yourself and your possibilities than what the world taught you concerning what your beliefs should be. Let me repeat that. You, the individual, you have to dare to believe something higher about yourself and your possibilities than what this world taught you concerning what your beliefs should be. They're the ones who told us you should be Christian, you should be Judaic, you should be Islamic, you should be Taoist or, Confucianism or whatever they say you should be as a philosophy or ideology of life. And it's that philosophy or ideology that should actually run your life. Forget about your natural proclivities. Forget about your natural goodness. We have to teach you goodness according to our paradigm, according to what benefits our selves and our pleasures. When every infant in reality is already born with that goodness. If you treat it badly, it's going to react. And you don't need a religious monarch or king or political king or religious whatever it is who rules religion. You don't need one of those fellas to tell you what's right, to tell you what's moral, to tell you what's appropriate for the circumstances and situation. If it's not right for that infant is going to protest until you make it right. So this goodness that we're looking at, this tayyib and these other words that the Quran uses to express what goodness is, the khayr and all of these other terms, these things are naturally clocked into your nature. They're not taught to you from a religious school. Much of it is not even taught to you by your parents. It's taught through the fitrah, the natural world of organized, patterned life. If you stick to the pattern, you will achieve success. Religion has been the primary tool used in the manipulation of human feelings and actions. And it has been responsible for more war, avarice, crimes, and bloodshed than any other system invented for people to follow. Imagination is not enough. Hope is not enough. Just sitting around hoping for things to be different, for people to treat you better, for bigger and better things to come into your life, materially speaking. Wishful thinking is not enough. However, imagination that's backed up by a feeling is to be worn as closely as your skin. You see the elasticity in your skin? You see how tight that skin is wrapping around your blood and your bones? That's how close imagination is supposed to be operating in your life. It's not supposed to be some remote thing. It's supposed to be intrinsic to who you are and where it is you need to go. You must inhabit it like you are inhabiting this skin. That is the secret for human progress. This is very important what I'm sharing with you right now. That feeling is important for your human progress. That is the secret for human progress that has been kept hidden from humans by those who chose to rewrite psychology in a way where the understanding of the complexities related to the soul was reduced down to the understanding of behavior. We went over some of the finer points of this information last week, where I told you that psychology in this world was first introduced by the ancient people of Egypt, also called Kemet. And they translated the word psychology, which came out of Greece. They translated it to mean the study of the soul. So the people of Greece, they heard the word in the Egyptian language. And when they translated it and interpreted it through the Greek lens, it was called the study of the soul, that spiritual quality, that first essence that all human beings have in common. There wasn't a black soul. There wasn't a white soul. There wasn't all of these artificial souls floating around here competing and contending with each other. The soul was the soul was the soul. And they saw it as the study of behavior only after they had exported that concept out of Egypt into Greece and other lands. Time is not linear. The greatest trick was in causing humans to believe that time was a linear event from point A to point B to point C. In fact, everything that you desire already exists. There is what is called a quantum field. You need to look up that word if you're not familiar with it. And an eternal now. This is in quantum physics. This is in the quantum realm of knowledge. You're not going to find that by studying your physical sciences introduced to you, especially through Western lenses. You have to get used to the idea of reaching out beyond the Western parameters of knowledge, keeping in mind that the majority of concepts, especially mental, moral, spiritual concepts that were introduced through Western study, could not reach beyond the parameters of this materialistic world. So all of the sciences that were introduced through the Western mind was introduced as concepts that were intimately and intricately tied to material reality, meaning you needed matter, you needed the material world in order for that thing to manifest. And it was the same thing with psychology. You had to begin with the material world. You had to begin with matter, but this is not how creation works. And there will be much more said about this phenomenon later in the course. The way to enter that version of quantum time is to match its frequency and to do it now. To match its frequency and to do it now. Not later on, now. That makes the difference between quantum thinking and materialistically inclined thinking. We do this by assuming an event to be already fulfilled. Again, follow me closely. This is one of the reasons why we are given such beautiful imagery of paradise, Firdaus, in the Quran. Stand by, there's some noise here that I'm trying to get rid of. Once again, this is one of the reasons why we are given such beautiful imagery of paradise in the Quran. It is intended to stimulate your feelings in the vital areas of your imagination. This is the combination of forces which produces immediate outcomes. Most of the first revelations that were given to Muhammad the Prophet during his tenure as prophet, most of the first images were images of paradise and also images of what they phrased as hell, but they were simplified images that you could directly relate to, that children could understand if you presented it to them. Nevertheless, they were images that the young, developing intellect could manage. So there's a picture of what's being spoken of. When we go to these islands for vacation, or when we move to these areas of the world that have a paradisical looking existence, plenty of water, waterfalls, trees, fruit in abundance, animals roaming the land, we see this as paradise on earth very often. Well, those are the images that are being given to us through the Quran. In the time of Muhammad, the early Muslims were given a death sentence through a boycott of their small community by the prevailing powers, which left many of the Muslims dying from thirst, from hunger, and from other levels of torture. In the middle of this melee, Allah revealed the words, "Qad aflaha al-mu'minun." Certainly, the faithful have already won through. Now, I want you to imagine in your mind's eye, as I'm speaking to you, that there's an abundance of torture. There's an abundance of deprivation taking place among a particular people who cannot fend for themselves. And in the middle of that torture, in the middle of that pain and suffering, comes the revelation. While the situation is occurring, the revelation, God, certainly the faithful have already won through. And I'm sure there was the question of, well, we're the faithful, aren't we? How come we're not winning? Where's the finish line on this Jemmy here? I don't see any. See, that's the person who might be not understanding or quite understanding what is meant in the Quran by faith. This is why it is crucially important for us to understand these Quranic words that I've been given to you now for years, Iman particularly. See, they translate that as faith. It means much more than that, but that's how it's currently translated. So Allah said, certainly, not perhaps, not maybe, for sure, certainly the faithful have already. God means it has already happened. The Arabic word qad represents a certainty akin to experiencing a thing for yourself in this very moment. It's happening for you as we speak. Now, I'm showing you this to explain to you that the Quran is dealing with psychological concepts that were not in the world as an ideology 1500 years ago. It had to be born into the world through the Quran and then developed by not Muslims per se, but through societies of people who chose to be thinkers in the earth. People who chose to be Khalifa, to establish something new and vibrant, energetic, and necessary for humans to believe in. So that Arabic word, qad, Q-A-D, represents that level of certainty Its English equivalent would be the word could, C-O-U-L-D, could. Although it has not happened yet, in your estimation, the possibilities are absolutely guaranteed. So imagine the early Muslims at that time being given that level of understanding in terms of their own psychology, how their minds, their nafs, was to operate in the world. This is happening for sure. I can see it in 3D reality, but there must be a background to this. There must be another level or other levels, other progressions of dimensions that I'm not aware of. Allah begins Al-Fatiha with Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. The praise is due to Allah, the evolver of all dimensions. We say systems of knowledge in our translations, but it means of all the dimensions of knowledge, the dimensions of logic, the dimensions of insight that produce insight. So it's letting you know that the dimension that you're looking at is not the only dimension. This is the understanding from the first introduction of this surah, Al-Hamd. It's actually called, we say Al-Fatiha, the opening. Al-Hamd is giving you insight into how to properly thank or be appreciative for what Allah has done, is doing, and will continue to do. So these people were being boycotted. And in the middle of it came this revelation, which let them know we have nothing to work. We just die. That's how they feel. You know how some people say Muslims love death more than the other people love life? That's where this came from. They understood something about death that superseded whatever you could do to torture them, to kill them, to stop them. They were operating with a very different set of principles in terms of their mindset. Although it has not happened yet, as I said, in your estimation, the possibilities of what it could produce or is producing in some other dimension that's heading straight towards you, that possibility or that group of possibilities, they are absolutely guaranteed. Because if it's happening in the invisible realm, it's just a matter of what you call time before they are manifest in this material reality. And that's why it's a reality, because it has happened already in another realm, in another zone. Imagination, when used correctly, is not about longing for a thing. It is about the feeling of possessing it already. When you feel as though a thing is already yours, your subconscious mind accepts it. When your subconscious mind accepts it, your nervous system begins to accept it. Look at the progression. You feel the possession. The subconscious mind gets hold of that feeling. When the subconscious mind gets hold of that feeling, it feeds it to your nervous system, especially the central nervous system connected to your spine. And once your nervous system accepts it, then your actions begin to change and your energies begin to shift, and the world, like a precise mirror, responds accordingly. This is how change occurs in the world. That Allah says in the Quran that He will not change the condition of any person until he or she first changes it with their own nafs, meaning with their own soul. it happens in the invisible first, before it becomes manifest in the visible. This is not about pretending. This is about alignment. Your belief is the cause. The world becomes the result. If you desire peace, first become peaceful within. You got a lot of troublemakers running around the world talking about they desire peace, but it's not the peace that Allah supports. Your belief is the cause. The world becomes the result. And I would draw your attention, without going into any length of elaboration, that the word result is doing something over and over again. That's due to the presence of the fix, the prefix in this case, to do something continuously. And you'll see that the word that is left is zalt or salt, which are exactly the same consonants needed for the Arabic term salat. So what is salat? It can't be what they told us it was. A prayer, a group of people lined up and putting their foreheads on the ground. No. Prayer is an evolution. Prayer is an ascension. Do you think it means what they mean when they talk about the Christian ascension, where people are floating up to heaven to meet Christ? No. This is not a physical event. It is a metaphysical event. And it begins in the invisible, in what's called the ghaib, which we'll get to in a moment. So if you desire wealth, become resourceful within and become free from the feelings of lack. Stop feeling like a beggar is the point. Stop feeling like a useless poor man who can't achieve because he doesn't have the necessary tools for achievement. If you desire wholeness, you must first feel as though health is already within your possession. You can't become healthy without first becoming whole. In fact, they're really the same word. Heal, whole. If you're not feeling healthy because you're not feeling healed, forget about how you feel right now and begin to perceive yourself and feel what it would feel like if you were healthy. That might be a rough one for you to see in your mind's eye, but this is where it starts. And this is the power of the subconscious mind we're talking about also. So this must first take place within your imagination. It's the same place where your children begin their journey into understanding this life and the possibilities all around them. When you're a child, you really don't even know that you're from a poor family. If you're eating once, twice, 3 times a day, if you're playing outside with your friends, if you're going to school and there's a teacher teaching you, a child has to be told about the differences in their circumstances from their friends' more well-to-do circumstances. Other than that, you really only need the basic necessities to feel as though you're making progress in the world. You don't feel that way now because you're comparing having things with not having things. And I'm saying that the mind needs to train itself to go back to the feeling of having things, not being without things, seeing yourself in the presence of those things, even though, as I said, they do not physically exist around you. You can't send them to anybody. You can't play with them. You can't barter with them. You can't go buy food with them. But you have to condition the mind This, again, is the power of the subconscious mind we're talking about. You have to be able to condition that mind to accept that this is your present state right now. The world has taught us to say, I will believe it when I see it. But Spirit says, I will see it when I believe it. You have to believe it first. This is the proper place for belief. It is not just the ramblings taking place in an unestablished imagination. Your belief is the cause, and everything else is the effect. What it is you believe produce this world that you're looking at. When you look out at the physical environment and see homes and stores and cars and all of these things that humans have produced, all of those things began in someone's imagination. They didn't just pop into what we call reality. They began in someone's imagination. Whenever you are desiring, see that desire as having been already fulfilled, not on its way to you, not it will happen on Thursday and we're still on Tuesday. No, see it as already being owned and operated by you and what that would feel like. This is the greatest measure of conditioning that the human mind can be occupied by. And the results are immediate. Feel the end result of the desire fulfilled, not on its way to becoming desire fulfilled, even in the absence of it in this 3D reality. These are the attributes of the imagination which grow out of the proper application of its usefulness in the world. It carries the same significance on the abstract level that figs and olives carry on the biological level. They are the ultimate in terms of nutrition and are helping the body to grow into its best dimensions. Those foods are not robbing you of anything essential. They are only contributing to the excellence of this form that we need on this side of the life called the body. There is discipline of thoughts before there is discipline of action. The outer world is simply its echo. You have an initial sound in the mountains, in the cave, or wherever, and then the initial sound produces an echo. We are living out the echo, but we have no clue about the initial sound, the initial vibration that produced the echo. We don't even know it's an echo. We think it's us or them, when in fact they're just a printout of something that has happened already in the unconscious part of their development. Appearances are the last stage of thought. And you can change them by going to their root, going to the imagination that produced the thought. And then you can trace the thought to its ultimate action. So whatever it is, if it's in action in the world, you can change it through understanding its root. The subconscious mind is also known as the subjective mind. It views things through the lens of belief, not necessarily facts or truth. Whatever you repeat to it over and over again with feeling, it believes it. That's your subconscious mind. That's your subjective mind. It is the same reason that little children believe in Santa Claus and the tooth fairy. Fairy? Fairy. Okay. Whatever you repeat to yourself, it perceives as truth, and it begins to build your life circumstances around those principles. We wonder how in the world can there be this many religions in the world, this many faith practices, and this many adherents to different religions, sometimes diametrically opposed religions in terms of their thought processes. How can this be? Because belief is not necessarily truth. Belief is taking place in what you imagine a thing to be. And all of our deeds are actually in their first stages based on imagination. That's why it's here in the Quran, but Allah gives it a different way. And we'll get to that in a moment in the Surah At-Tin, the fig. Repeating these ideas generates frequency, which makes them manifest visibly. In other words, what you are now believing in the now is responsible for creating what you become in the future. There are people who have died simply because the doctor told them they would, but nothing was actually wrong with them. They were just told that they have a particular illness, not knowing that the illness was actually misdiagnosed. But because the doctor said it, for them, it had to be true. They believed it. And they died unnecessarily. That's how strong belief is. In Surah 2, Allah says, Alif Lam Mim ALM ذلك الكتاب لا ريب فيه هدى للمتقين. They say this is the book, but more accurately, it says that is the book. In it is guidance sure, without doubt, to those who fear Allah. If you've been with me long enough, you know that I don't accept all of this as translation proper. But for time's sake, we're going to speed through this and get to its nitty-gritty details at another time, on another day. الذين يؤمنون بالغيب ويقيمون الصلاة ومما رزقناهم ينفقون. Who believe in the unseen. That's the catcher right there. That's the clincher. Who believe بالغيب. That means in or with the unseen, meaning with the invisible frequency or properties of the mind. وَيُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةَ. That preps you for whatever the salat represents. You have to first believe in the unseen, the invisible, the thought. والذين يؤمنون بما أنزل إليك وما أنزل من قبلك وبالآخرة هم يوقنون. And who believe in the revelation sent to you and sent before your time, and in their hearts have the assurance of the hereafter or that which is to come. They're not guessing. They have the assurance. Yukinun. This thing is assured. It's guaranteed. There is so much science here. Without us being able to get into it all on today, just understand that we're dealing with a revelation called Al-Quran, and it's called many other wonderful things that's providing levels of guidance that we before could not have been made known to us without Allah's assistance. أولئك على هدى من ربهم وأولئك هم المفلحون. They are on true guidance, hudan, from their Rabb, and it is these who will prosper. These are the ones who are al-muflihun. Muflihun is the plural of muflih, which means farmer. From the verb falaha, which indicates the movement of a successful seed. Farmers are all about planting seeds. And when a seed is planted successfully and it begins to harvest in the correct way, that's the job, the ultimate objective of a muflih, to see that the seed has reached its levels of productivity. So apply that to what Allah is saying here. They are on true guidance from the one who is evolving them. That's what Rabb means. They are Rabb, the one who is allowing them to experience evolution. And that evolution also connects to involution, the involving of materials in the invisible realm to become evolution, that which is eventually seen on the outside as material reality. And Allah says that it is these who will prosper. See, this is the condition necessary for the falah, the farmer's work, to take place. When you plant a seed, don't you create an invisible situation for the seed? And for you, you can't see it. You have no idea when it's going to begin budding and prospering, but you have faith because you know this is the process that Allah has clocked into the seed. The fig has very small seeds. It is a very sweet fruit that is easily manageable in the mouth. This is also symbolic of the human ability to imagine. Your imagination is not a hard thing to wrestle with in the mind. It's an easy thing. When you imagine yourself in a better condition, you imagine yourself with better friends, you imagine yourself productive in life, creating things in life, being around people who count in this world. You have to first submit that to the imagination. An image is a byproduct of thought, and thoughts in the mind are like clouds floating in the sky. These initial thoughts are respectable thoughts, not backwards or wayward thoughts, but maturing thoughts. Atin, the fig, and we speak about something being a figment of the imagination. This world knows this science, but they don't teach it to us or our children. I think they've lost so much of it that they're no longer teaching it to each other either. But we have it now, and we need to work this knowledge so that it produces for us and do it indiscriminately. This is not black man's knowledge. This is not white man's knowledge. This is not the Indian man's knowledge. This knowledge belongs to the fitrah, and that's Allah's property. So the fig represents respectable thoughts or thoughts that are contributing to the intellectual progress, development, and maturing of the mind. See, in the same way that Allah put all of this nutrition in the fig, there's a lot of nutrition packed into that fruit. He did that also with certain levels of thought. Your mind is constantly forming thoughts, but they are indiscriminate thoughts. They float like the clouds float. But Allah wants our concentration to be on productive thought. That's what the fig represents, the initial foray into the universe, your universe, of productive thinking. The mind matures through a constant process of chewing on readily available and wholesome information. The fig is so easy to chew. That's why your mama used to tell you, go figure it out for yourself. It's not hard. Just think. That's all you have to do. Get some thoughts. Wrap your mind around some concepts. You can put a dictionary in your room, next to you. All you have to do is think. And the thinking in and of itself becomes a productive mechanism for producing results in the mind that can then take those invisible thoughts and manifest them as visible priorities in your life. Allah goes on to say, as zaytun, the olive. The olive represents the anointed mind. Many people in religion use oil for anointing. Many people. Olive oil is used in some of the most holy of sacraments in many different faith traditions in this world. The Catholics use it. The average Baptist church uses oil. And in many other centers, not just Christianity, but in many religious centers, oil is used. The oil leaves also represent leadership, in that they were used to create crowns for the rulers. See, when you see zaytun, it's not just talking about the fruit and the meat of the fruit. It's talking essentially about how the whole tree is structured. When it talks about the fig, it's talking not just about the fruit and its meat, but it's talking about how the whole system that creates that fruit operates. How do we know it's talking about the whole fruit, instructor? Because it doesn't say tin, which would be normal, fig. It doesn't just say zaytun, which would be normal, olive. It gives it a definite article. At-tin, that means the whole thing. It means a specific thing. And how that specific thing is designed to benefit you. You can continue to say Islam is your religion, or you can say al-Islam, give it a definite article so that there's no question mark involved. Lastly, we have as-sinin, wa tur is-sinin. Tur means mount or mountain, of what they have translated as Sinai. That's not its true meaning, but we'll discuss that on another day. The word sinin, just to give you a hint, is a plural concept, not singular. So it can't be just one mount or the Mount of Sinai. It must be the Mount of Sinuses, as we've come to know it. It's not the Mount of Sinai, it's the Mount of Sinuses, because it represents the peak of the intellect. This is actually a depiction of the growth and development of the human intellect itself. The peak achievement that Allah created the human mind to come into. The peak of the intellect, where revelation or inspiration becomes accommodated. Allah says, when I have breathed into them of my ruh, my spirit, then all of you other creatures make sajda to Adam. Allah didn't say to me, he said to Adam. This shows you what a special role Adam is to be playing in the world. Not as a past creature from 6, 7, 8,000, 25,000 years ago. No. All of us are called the Banu Adama, children, progeny of Adam. So everyone who has these characteristics should fit this profile. We should be growing and developing and achieving and establishing our human worth and wealth upon the backs of these concepts. So you decide for yourself in our closing what level you see yourself as being on. And even if you're not there, see yourself as being there. Start with etin. That's a beautiful concept to begin with. Start with your mind, seeing your mind as being that which matures through this concept of constantly chewing, constantly investigating, constantly moving back the information so that you can see what's under the bush, the leaf, the tree, the soil, what's beneath that, and what is that made out of? You got to put your mind in a conditioning process that will allow that to unfold for you. And that's why an infant is also called etin. Yeah, it's from a different spelling. Allah says he created the human being, mintin, using a different T, that's all. But the same basic sound. And we call that malleable clay. In the same way that clay is shapeable, the fig fruit is shapeable. You can pull it apart with your fingers. Because it's dealing with concepts that are giving us insight into how the human mind, the human imagination, the human emotionality, and the human intellect are formed, developed, and implemented in the world for your service, so that you can better serve your source creator, who needs nothing. So everything that you come out with is to complement human life and human advancement. So that's where we're going to end today. We're thankful that Allah has blessed us to reach this level of development. We're going to ask for whatever your few questions or comments might be, and then we're going to close out miraculously. It's only 4:00. We're going to close out so we can get to some other things. I meant to mention that my children's grandmother, on their mother's side, not Karima, but on their mother's side, my ex-wife's side, she transitioned yesterday, actually. And we thank Allah because I was able to get the children who had not yet seen her over to her house on the last day that she was able to breathe the breath of life in this world. She wasn't conscious, as is the normal case for people who have reached that level, but she was alive. And as long as you're alive, you can hear. So it's important what you put in a person's ear in those moments prior to their transitioning, even though they're not responding to you. I know when I said some things in her ears, she began to breathe with more labor, not excitement, just more presence. And I thought that was very important. Myself and my 4 youngest children, that was their mother. Pardon me, that was their grandmother. And she treated me like a king, if you can imagine, to the point where she never gave up calling me her son-in-law. Now you might say, well, it's disrespectful. No, that's the ultimate respect, especially when she grew to know my wife, Karima, and their mother, Fatima. She met and grew to very much like Karima. How could you not? And we used to have outings, and we visited each other's homes and had meals and attended parties for whoever's birthday it was or whatever the case is. That's how a normal, rational family operates. And believe me, there are a lot of families, including many of yours, that don't have that relationship with each other. I consider myself to be gifted by Allah in many different ways that I can never fully explain. But I'm so thankful that they feel that way about their parents and that they feel that way about the person that I chose to be with for the rest of my days here on this earth, on this side of the life. See? So that's what we're doing. She transitioned, and her funeral, in this case, will be on Saturday. I think that's the 16th or the 18th, whatever this next coming Saturday is. So that'll be when we do our duty, our obligation to her, and hopefully put some positive seeds out there for whatever's going wrong in that side of the family, meaning my ex-wife's family. They have some issues over there that need to be resolved. Maybe we can make some positive contribution to resolving those. What you need sometimes is a touchstone. You need to look at what does work and then take it over and just keep it in proximity. Remember, frequency is what rules the world. And if you vibrate at the right frequency, people have to either grow along with you or move out of your way. That's what I found. I have found that to be a fact. They can't stop you. They can only grow along with your frequency and meet your frequency where you want them to meet your frequency, or it becomes so powerful that they have to stay away from you. And there are people who will do that. They see you coming, they move because they know you're going to have some conversation on some subject that they're not familiar with. But don't let that stop you from being the best human being you can possibly be. You see? Yeah. I think that the question was for William, if you want to answer that before we close out. Did you see it from Gary? William?
Interesting responses, Gary. They was a wide range of responses. Some of them actually, a couple of them actually nodded out. They went to sleep. But I chalk that up as, these young men, probably the first time they got out in a real free environment like that, where they could just romp and play and stay up all night if they wanted to, and they had an opportunity to do that, where they slept in tents, probably for the first time in their life. And so I just accommodated that, those few that kind of nodded out. But the most of them, they were they were involved. I mean, they were entrenched in the conversation. And and I had actually prepared a formal presentation for them because I didn't know the exact type of setting that we would have. I don't know whether we would be inside. I don't know if it would be a real formal kind of environment because the main young man that was coordinating the whole event, you all met him, it was Lex Kelly. He was on him several months ago. But he's a film producer, so I thought it may have been very formal and very structured, but it wasn't. So I took that 10-page formal presentation I had and put it aside. And we were out, we went outside instead of inside and had a direct conversation with them and trying to find out from them uh, what was their dream, what was happening in their imagination in terms of where they saw themselves going. And I spoke to that. And they responded in kind, you know. So we had a good exchange. I was raising questions and getting feedback from them. So it was a good exchange. And the presentation was one kind of similar to what instructor just shared with us in terms of its approach to imagination. And I was tapping into theirs, and I was letting them know. And I just kept letting them know, kept reminding them that I raised the question about the word remember, you know, that's what they needed to do. They needed to reconnect back with their strength as a newborn baby, you know, and how prolific their brain was taking in information when they were 1, 2, 3, 4 years old, and that hadn't left them. It was still inside of them. So I was speaking to them, and they was responding in kind. So we had a good exchange, you know. Uh, we're anticipating that we'll have elders like myself in the 70s and 80s, and we'll have the young adults in their 30s and 40s, and a constant exchange like that. And then we'll have the teenagers, you know, we'll have those who are still in middle school and high school, and we'll keep this flow going where we'll be sharing with them, and we're building around their imaginations, what they see for the future, what they want for themselves, and we're going to be there as resources for them. So they appreciated that we were,
It's
and we
beautiful.
let them know that we are here to serve you, not the other way around. So let us know, you know, what are your aspirations, what are your dreams, and we'll see where we can plug in, where we can help, where we can be a resource to not only ourselves individually, but our networks that we have that we're plugged into. We make that available to them as well. So it was it was good. It was great.
Habiba made a very good point in writing. She said just because they were asleep doesn't mean they weren't hearing you.
You know what? As a matter of fact, the ones who were asleep, who appeared to be asleep, they responded. They did respond.
Yeah.
Even though they had their head down, they responded.
Yes. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
And one other thing happened. This is now that she mentioned that. After that session, I went over to Lex's home. He invited me to come over there because his wife had just given birth a few days before that, and she wanted to have like a family meeting, and she invited me over. So I went over there, and so the newborn baby, which is just a couple of days old, of course, he was there. He spent most of his time asleep while I was there. And so we were having the exchange. They wanted me to share some of the information on some of the research I had been doing to prepare for these young boys. And it was pretty deep because I was talking about optimum living, those first few years of our life and beyond. And so I was sharing with them some of my research, and so I mentioned to them that newborn baby over there who seemed to be asleep, he had his eyes closed. I said he was listening to us and he was hearing everything that we were saying.
Facts.
And when he heard that, he smiled.
There's your proof.
Yes, 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 yes. So, uh, good. How did Imam used to say all the time? Goodness is on the rise.
Greatness is on the rise, and how sweet it is.
How sweet it is.
Yeah. So thank you for that.
Sure.
Does anyone else have any questions or quick comments that they'd like to make before we close out?
Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad Alam Ali.
Yes, sir. Alaikum
Yeah,
salam.
I have a. I'm gonna say what my grandmother used to say. Ooh, wee boy, go on with yourself. That's all I got to say, and that's a culture thing. You know,
That's no said, ain't it?
great peace a lot. Thank you very much. I am really inspired today, more than I've been inspired before. Thank you very much.
That's
Alhamdulillah.
wonderful. That's wonderful. We thank Allah for that inspiration in you and in the rest of us. All right. So if no one has anything else they'd like to say or recount for us that we can benefit from, then I'm going to say to all of you that I leave you as I found you in peace. And it's a peace that we are not in a position to violate because it's Allah's peace. We're not going to violate, not knowingly, what Allah has established as peace and reconciliation, because that's a part of the peace that Salam includes. Peace and reconciliation. I'm happy to see the relationship between us. And I know there's about another 10, 12 people who are in this call who, there go one of them. Thank you, Vina. Yeah. These are people who are just in the background because they're doing other things. It's Sunday, you know. If they're like me, they probably have other family members in the house, not knowing that they're on the call. There goes another one. Yeah, not knowing that they're on the call or whatever. And they just, you know, they know how to play. Yeah, they know how to play this game of cards. Just keep the cards in your hand, keep them loaded. And when it's your turn to go, you go, and then you come back to the conference. So this is beautiful. So again, with that said, Yusuf, not Yusuf, Yahya, thank you for being with us today also. Yes.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
I just want to say I enjoyed your presentation, but your wife's presentation, it was so valuable. It was some information that we all need to take heed to.
It's what we call life-saving.
Yes. We want to thank you for that.
Yeah, well, I will pass that on to her. She'll hear this, but I want to pass that on to her. And she's very, very happy to take advantage of the ability to present to us so far every weekend. You know, she's presented some valuable information that I'm sure at least one person in our household or in our family group is dealing with. They might have an uncle, a cousin, an auntie, somebody who's dealing with these health issues that don't have to be as bad as they turn out to be. And they're only bad because we're not aware of what to do to rectify them. Remember, the human being is an extremely elastic creature. The human being can be stretched and bent and accommodated, and it's just a factor that Allah clocked into the human soul that is able to accommodate a lot of pressure in a lot of different ways to do one thing. So that's why we're here. Never give up hope. Never give up or give in when it comes to your idea of what life is and why you should be in it. You're in it because Allah put you in it. And for you to deny your place in it is for you to deny Allah's will. And all of the rest of what you're going through, as I just said in my presentation, you can deal with it if you know how. It's in your hands. This is not happenstance and circumstance that you're dealing with. This is predictable, what you have in this world. It truly is. It doesn't sound like it. Sounds like, okay, he's giving us some hokum here. He's giving us some, whatever. No, that's not what I'm giving you. I'm giving you reality. Name something that's here that was not first an idea in somebody's imagination.
You do it.
Can't. Not even your toothbrush. Nothing.
Mm-hmm.
It had to first be conceived, just like a child, right? You don't have a baby without a conception. So why would Allah change his pattern, his fitrah? He said he never changes his fitrah. Why would he change that pattern? Because the humans are here. So we don't have to follow laws of nature. No, invisible to visible is a law that's in nature. It's not spooky science, it's real science. And the stuff they've been giving us, it's the spooky science. So all I can do is say, stay hopeful, stay prayerful, as the Christians like to say, but stay alert. That's all. Stay observant. That's what I like to say. Never stop being an observer. You don't have to believe in everything that you observe, but you should consider the things that you're observing if they're working for you and for other people. So with that said, I greet you in the greetings of peace that obligate each and every one of us to keep the peace. Salamun alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
All right.
Yeah.
Walaikum salam. Shukran. Thank you so much.
This is
I'm
my
so
pleasure.
grateful.
My pleasure. I
you.
will send you this as soon as I get finished editing it, and you can
Okay.
enjoy it
All right.
hopefully at some point this evening. Thank you.